Okay, next we're going to start the skull. You need to know all the main bones of the skull, and then for some of those main bones they have little parts that stick out and parts that go in, indentations, holes, and you need to know all of those parts as well. So I'm going to start with the colored skull so you can really see all of these details. And if you look at the cadaver program, it also lights up all of those bones in a colored way, but you also will need to know those bones on a plain white normal skull, which I will show you. So the very first bone is called the frontal. That's our forehead, this blue one. The next two are called parietals, these green ones. There's two of them. Whenever you have two bones, make sure you write right or left, because that matters to know the direction of the bones. The next bone in, let's do the temporal bone on the side of the head, this orange one. The one in the back is the occipital bone. On the kind of the temples, if you had a headache and you put your fingers like this on your headache, that would be the sphenoid bone. And the sphenoid bone has several parts, and it's very inside of the skull, but we'll talk about all those parts eventually. Your face, this yellow part is the maxilla. This blue one here is called the zygomatic. It makes up part of your cheekbone. The pink one here is the bridge of your nose. That's called the nasal bone. And then inside here, this little reddish colored one, that one is called the lacrimal bone. It's where tears actually are formed in our eyes. And then you can see this little piece of white here and a piece of white up inside the nasal cavity. That's part of the ethmoid bone. We'll talk about the parts of the ethmoid. And then this little green one down here is the vomer. Okay, so I'm going to go back to these bones then and talk about some of the parts you need to know specifically on each of these bones. So on the frontal, what we ask you to know is this little hole here, and the holes in Latin are foramen, and those are called the supraorbital foramen, where supra means above, orbit is eye, and foramen is hole. So it's like a map that tells you what the name of that is, the supraorbital foramen. On the parietals, I'm going to switch to a real skull so you can kind of see this a little bit better. On the parietals, we have these little ridges right here. Those little ridges are called temporal lines, and they're important because our chewing muscle, our masseter, actually holds on there. And when we're first born, when we're fetuses, that's smooth because our muscles haven't pulled on the bones yet to form them. So as we age, we then develop these ridges where that muscle's pulling and holding on to the bone, and those are the temporal lines of the parietal bones. I'm going to go back to this one then. If we then go to the occipital bone, you have several parts on the occipital bone. You have the giant hole where your spinal cord goes. That's called the foramen magnum. You have these nice smooth little places where they articulate onto the vertebrae, and those are called the occipital condyles. You also have the little bump, which you can always feel in the back of your head. If you put your finger back there, you're like, oh yeah, I feel that little lump. That's called the external occipital protuberance. You also have, well, I think that's about it that we, yeah, that's all we're going to talk about on that. Okay. The next one, the temporal, has a lot of parts that stick out. It's sometimes a little confusing for people. You have this bump right here, and anything that sticks out is called a process. So that bump is called the mastoid process, and you can feel it. It's right behind your ear, and it gets really lumpy. If we're sick, sometimes the doctor will put their fingers up in there because you have lymph nodes that hang out there and can get swollen and make that very tender. So that's the mastoid process. You have the external auditory meatus, which we just also will learn about in the ear when we talk about the ear. You have this part that sticks down here. It's part of tongue attachment. It's very stick-looking, and it's called the styloid process. And the styloid process Styloid means looks like a stick in Latin. Process, again, is something that muscles hold on to, or ligaments and tendons. This little orange piece here is a little part that helps to make up your cheekbone. The whole cheekbone is called the zygomatic arch, and it's composed of two pieces. It's composed of this piece, which is called the zygomatic process of the temporal bone, and it's also composed of this little piece here, which is called the temporal process of the zygomatic bone. That's kind of a confusing thing for people. It's one of those things you have to almost learn it as the opposite, but it's telling you which bone is attaching to which one. This flattened portion of the temporal bone is called the squamous portion, and then the rear portion is called the petrous portion. On the maxilla, our face bone here, we have two holes. They're under the eyes, so this time they're called the infraorbital foramen, where infra means below. So infra, orbit, eye, foramen, hole. Inside the nasal cavity, we have this kind of curlicue material. You have the superior nasal conchae, the middle nasal conchae, and the lower nasal conchae. This little green one, remember, is the vomer. It helps to make up the nasal septum, the part that separates your two nostrils. I'm going to switch to this one again. On your zygomatic bone, you have little holes. This is a real skull. This person happened to have two of them. And those are called the zygomaticofacial foramen. And you can see both of those holes there.